So this lecture is on digestive system infections, and it's the second part of chapter 19 in the book. So bacteria can cause a lot of foodborne illnesses. They're not the only thing that cause it, but they most certainly can. However, it's interesting to note that the most common cause of foodborne illness is norovirus. So viruses are the main one. There's about 31 characterized pathogens that are known to cause foodborne illnesses. Foodborne bacteria and infections can result from ingesting food that has the bacteria, and it will infect us. So these are 5 of the most common causes then of foodborne illnesses, but by no means the only ones. We're going to talk about some other ones today. So basically, bacteria don't actively grow in the host. The symptoms are triggered, and I'd like you to know this, by enterotoxins. So it's an exotoxin. So we talked about that before in the class. Exotoxins are those that are secreted outside of the microbe, and they usually tend to trigger vomiting. They can cause inflammation of the intestines, and prevent water absorption. This leads to diarrhea and abdominal pain. So leading causes of food poisoning that we need to be aware of, guys, are these 5 here. So Staph aureus, Clostridium perfringens, Bacillus cereus, Clostridium botulinum, and Aspergillus flavus. So as far as Staph aureus poisoning goes, guys, can be linked to things like tuna, chicken, dairy, other types of poultry and meat products. Again, it can be caused by the stuff that's inside of us, our normal stuff. So transmission is easy if hands are not washed before preparing food. You should constantly be washing your hands, guys. I think if nothing has come out of this COVID thing, I think everybody realizes maybe not everybody's washing their hands the right way. Bacillus cereus food poisoning. Bacillus cereus, guys, is a spore-forming microbe, and it's usually found in soil. So again, you were taught from little kid on up, when you go outside and you play, wash your hands when you come in. Cooking does not always kill these types of spores, so that's something that we have to be aware of. So if you don't kill the spores and your food cools down, you might kill the actively growing bacteria, but the spores will start to germinate and the bacteria will grow, and then toxins are produced. Botulism, we've all heard of that term, and it's caused by Clostridium botulinum. And again, Clostridium botulinum produces an exotoxin that gets in the bloodstream and targets our nerve cells. Now, mold can also cause food poisoning, and Aspergillus flavus, remember we looked at Aspergillus in the lab, guys, it produces a toxin. So the toxin is actually what makes us sick, and this is something that can grow on things like corn, peanuts, etc. Now, a microbe that causes bacteria that's also linked to a neurological disease is Campylobacter jejuni. It can lead to what's called Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is a rare autoimmune neurological disease. So please know for your final that some cases of Guillain-Barré syndrome are linked to Campylobacter. So this, again, after people get sick with this, they have diarrhea, and then they start feeling tingling in their legs and feet, and eventually they become paralyzed as a result. Now, 3 terms to know for your final. Bacteremia, that's bacteria found in the blood. Sepsis, that's a body-wide immune response to persistent or large numbers of microbes in the blood, and it may progress to septic shock. Now, septic shock is a dangerously advanced stage of sepsis in which the body's organs start to shut down. This, if someone goes into septic shock, 20 to 30% mortality rate. Now, some other types of infections that you could get from your food, guys. One is called shigellosis. And what shigellosis can cause, guys, is dysentery. Okay? So there's 4 different types of Shigella out there, guys, but this last one is the one that causes dysentery. Now, the complications then from this infection are due to a toxin. Now again, guys, Shigella can induce what's known as hemolytic uremic syndrome, or HUS. This has a 5 to 10% mortality rate. E. coli, we've all heard of that. This one can definitely cause a lot of problems. It's part of our normal microbiota. So it's something we need to be aware of. And there are hemorrhagic strains of this out there as well. So what happens with E. coli is they can be grouped by what's known as O and H antigens, and these are found on the outside of the microbe. And there's about 6 main E. coli pathogens that can actually cause diarrhea and bleeding or dysentery. So please know this. E. coli O157:H7 is the one that causes deadly outbreaks of E. coli infections. Okay? So please again know that, guys. E. coli O157:H7, that's the strain that causes the deadly outbreaks of E. coli infections. We've all heard of Salmonella, and please know that the etiological agent, or what causes it, is called Salmonella enterolytica. There's over 2,600 strains, guys, of this particular microbe. And again, it's normally found in poultry, eggs, things like that, but it's been found in tomatoes and some other places as well. So again, wash your hands, wash your fruits and vegetables. We can get this from many sources. Cook your meat. That's another good thing that you should be doing. Cholera is not something we see in the United States, but worldwide there are 4.3 million cases with 142,000 deaths per year. Please note, cholera produces a cholera toxin. C. diff, that's something that a lot of you who work out there already in healthcare know, pretty nasty. It causes what's called pseudomembranous colitis. And basically what happens with that, guys, is that the, and please take a screenshot of this, is that you get these lesions, and if you take a look here, here's a healthy colon, here's one that's infected, you get these pseudomembranous lesions. That's all these white things in here. That starts to slough off. So when the patient has that nasty diarrhea, not only is the bacteria coming out, but some of this stuff is sloughing off with it as well. If this continues, then there's perforation in the intestines, and then that can lead to systemic types of infections as a result. Now, there's also some protozoa that can actually cause food poisoning as well, and one of the main ones, guys, is called Giardia lamblia, and it causes a disease called giardiasis. Now, the life cycle of this protozoa is in 2 stages, the cyst and the trophozoite stage. So for your exam, please know, with giardiasis, the mechanism of action is as follows. The microbe passes through the stomach and into the wall of the intestines. Then the cyst will hatch and release 2 trophozoites. Okay? So the cyst goes through to the intestines, and then this is what gets released. Okay, so these are the trophozoites. And if you look, guys, there's like these little suction cups. That's how they latch onto our intestines to make us sick. Amoebiasis is caused by, please know this, Entamoeba histolytica. Now what this causes, guys, is what we call amoebic dysentery. Amoebic dysentery is caused by Entamoeba histolytica. That's what I'm going to test you on. Now worms, guys, I could go crazy with worms, but I'm not going to. But there's a lot of different ones out there, guys. I'm going to go through this a little fast. Tapeworms, they have like what's called a scolex at one end, and it can have hooks and suckers. And there's about 32 recognized, and only 3 of them, guys, actually can cause infections in humans. So basically, if you don't cook your meat properly, or you are around animals that are pooping this out, it can get inside of you, latch onto you. Some of these can get up to anywhere from about 9 feet or more in length inside. Pinworms are a problem. About 40 million people in the US are infected with pinworms. The transmission, basically, when people are sleeping, the female worm migrates up the anus and lays eggs. And then that causes itching, the person scratches, it gets transferred, and it can stay on things like toys, clothing, etc. for up to 3 weeks. Those eggs can be infectious for up to 3 weeks on these items. Hookworms, again, there's about, look at this worldwide, how many people, that's million, 500 million people worldwide are infected with this. Another type of worm, and luckily we don't see a lot of this in the US, it's more in tropical regions. This Ascaris actually infects up to 1.2 billion people worldwide. Again, a lot of that has to do with poor sanitation in those parts of the world. And roundworms, guys, rare in developed countries, but they can be deadly in people who get this. And for the rest of these guys, that's it.